hard-fought, well-managed game on both sides. I didn't have any issues with Cora. I didn't have any issues with Boone. Even with sticking with Rodón, I still thought it was the right thing. Yeah, you could see maybe he's tiring a little bit. I like the fact that Rodón said, let me go a little bit more. Boone wrote it out, made the right moves in the bullpen. Yankees coming up with some timely hitting and taking advantage. The Yankees did something last night that other teams have been doing to them for years. They took advantage of sloppy play and mistakes by the Boston Red Sox.
Red Sox made a couple. We could be sitting here. We could be actually having a funeral for the Yankees here if things didn't go a little differently. Jarren Duran diving for that ball. You got to make that play. That's a catch that an outfielder makes basically every single time. Obviously, Eaton not scoring from third base. That was ridiculous.
Not getting the bunt down.
Yeah, not getting the bunt down, which obviously Cruz jumped up like a shortstop, and then he wiggled out of the jam. That was set up by the 2 walks when Wells talked his way into it. I get what Cora did. He went for it last night, but because I think he's looking at tonight. And the kid that they're pitching, Connerly Early, is actually one of their young studs. Now, he hasn't pitched as much as Schlittler, but he's young, and his numbers are very, very impressive. AA, AAA, small sample, big. So I think there are some Yankee fans who are thinking that this kid's going to be batting practice tonight, and he's a lefty. So that's a discussion.
That's the biggest thing we got to get to.
Which we certainly will, but the one thing that Cora messed up with last night, Whitlock threw almost 50 pitches. Now, Bednar's throwing consecutive days, and so was Devin Williams, and so was Cruz. We didn't see Weaver last night, and it's go time. You do what you got to do. I think everybody will be available to pitch tonight for the Yankees, but before you get to Chapman, if it's a tight game, he burned out Whitlock last night. That's a big advantage for the Yankees.
Oh, right, but you got to use your guys and try to get that game. So he's trying to win the game, so he's going with his best guy and just trying to get through any inning he can, figuring that, all right, well, I've already used him for, let's say, 30 pitches. He's probably not going to be useful tomorrow, or at least even effective if he could be used tomorrow. Let me just go to the whip here with Whitlock, see if I can, keep this game tied, get the lead, and then turn it over to Chapman. They didn't do that, but I had no issue with Cora. I like the way, as a matter of fact, that he managed aggressively early on, because against those lefties, they were going to mash him in that spot. He had to be quick going with the lefties, and Boston has a lot of them, and that's the Yankees' kryptonite here, especially if Boone and the Yankees play into the Red Sox hands with the lefties by keeping their best players on the bench. It's something I wouldn't expect tonight. We don't know, other than Jazz is going to be in there. That's what Boone said. If they sit Ben Rice,
there is no way Ben Rice is sitting tonight. Zero.
Yeah,
zero.
Yeah, but
there's no way. I thought that you gleaned that, watching Boone's press conference last night. Now, he did say the Jazz will play, as you said.
Yeah.
He was not committal on first base. And Goldschmidt's obviously a much better fielder. Ben Rice is the worst scooper I've ever seen in my life. He
can't play first.
No, he's awful at first base. Now, maybe the decision is this. Maybe you put Rice behind the plate. Maybe you put Goldschmidt at first. Maybe you DH Wells, and maybe you sit Stanton. Is that over? Stanton looks terrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Stanton, especially against the lefty. Stanton just wants, as bad as he's one swing away. I would be shocked if they did that. Now, the trick would be that Ben Rice is your second best offensive player. He's got you played a whole game in a best of 3 without him. Inexcusable. And it's not that he's going to get a hit every time up. He is your second best offensive player behind the great Aaron Judge. Ben Rice has to be in the lineup. I don't care what you get. If they sit Wells, I'm okay with it. You sit Goldschmidt, I'm okay with it. Matter of fact, even if they did sit Stanton, I wouldn't do it. That would be the least of my options, and I'd be shocked if they did it.
Yeah, me too. I'm just throwing it out there.
No matter what, Rice has to be in the lineup, so everything else should go off of that. Lefty or not, Ben Rice has to be in there.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's the subtleties of the game that keep you alive or send you home. So, little things last night, and this pertains to the decision at catcher. And I do think it's going to be Wells behind the plate. I think it's going to be Ben Rice at first. I think it's going to be Stanton DHing. I think that Goldschmidt sits. And maybe you have Goldschmidt, you deploy him in the 9th inning if you have to, when you have Chapman get the lefty-righty matchup. That's something that obviously Boone is already thinking about. I think that's what he's going to do. Was it Cruz? Obviously, Cruz throws a pretty nasty splitter, although it was not that good last night. Wells made an incredible block, and he actually caught it. It was in the left-hand portion of the batter's box, and it was so short. It was like a 57-footer. He didn't even really have time to chest it up, so he almost backhanded it like a shortstop. I don't think Ben Rice is making that play. So behind the plate,
he's not good defensively, but to me, the offense is worth it. If you're saying in reality, his best position is DH. I've been saying this all year long. They're saying, no, he's a great catcher, whatever. He can play a little. He should be a DH. The problem is another best offensive option that you have is also a DH in Carlos Stanton. So, and you're not going to put him in the outfield. So we talked about that yesterday in Game 1. Ideally, you could have had Stanton in the outfield and Grisham could have been benched. But they can't do that because they're trying to value defense and Stanton can't play the outfield. So it ends up being Ben Rice without a chair when the music stops. He's got to be in the lineup tonight. I don't care who's pitching. Ben Rice has to be in there. And Boone's got to figure that out. I'm sure it's a decision that either they've made up or they're still weighing it at this particular point. But it's not one that's easy trying to configure Wells, Goldschmidt, and Rice against a left-handed pitcher. But to me, Ben Rice, you play your best players, dude. I mean, it's not that hard. Like, you could go over the analytics and the numbers and the matchups, but come on. It's Game 3. It's elimination game. Put your best freaking players in a lineup.
Could you imagine willingly having, of say 12 potential at bats, 3 games, you get 4, conventionally speaking, 12 at bats. Can you imagine before a series saying, I'm only going to give Ben Rice 4 at bats out of 12.
Right.
Like, he's playing. So, listen, I thought this. I don't know if you did, and we'll get the calls, obviously. Yeah. Yanks live to see another day. 888-808-1019. BT and South, the stadium was jacked up, as you would imagine. It's going to be nuts tonight. I love Schlittler. I feel good about this. But I couldn't help but think that when he went out there and he spoke to Rodón, and he let Rodón talk himself into it, which I respect, I thought it was the wrong move there. It worked out. I mean, He threw 8 straight balls as he clearly lost his stuff.
Well, it didn't necessarily work out because he gave up 2 guys. I know they didn't give up a run.
No, but that's when Cruz comes in. Now, if you get the bunt down, you get a sac fly. I mean, by the way, Cruz almost gave up a 410-foot home run. Yeah. So, it could have worked out very differently. Well, my point is, I wonder, and I don't know that he would ever admit this, I can't help but think on some small level that Aaron Boone was thinking, man, I just yanked Fried a little bit too early the night before. I'm going to give him a chance, not to placate fans or anything, but that had to be on his mind at some point. It
did cross my mind, and I was hoping, though, that it wasn't on his mind. And hearing, though, the difference is that Fried didn't say what Rodón said. Rodón basically said, get the hell out of here. I want more.
Yeah.
I got more. So Boone is then trusting his players, maybe even against his better judgment. So I would bet it was on his mind. I don't ultimately believe it factored in his decision, nor should it. Well, the night before, I took the starting pitcher out too early, so here you go. I'm going to leave the guy in a little bit longer. Different circumstances, different pitcher. Rodón wanted it more. And also, see, to me, we talked about yesterday how I believe a starting pitcher should be knocked out, not taken out. You got to the point last night where, like, you could say, well, I would have taken him out a batter or 2 early. Others could say the same thing, like, no, you got to get him out. We know definitively when Boone took him out, there was no more beyond that. Nobody could argue, well, you should have left him in. That was it. And to me, that's the right time to get him. You try to squeeze one more, right? There's an habit, all right, he's losing it. You can see he's losing it. Let's give him one more. And that's fine. And they still were safe with that. Then you go to your bullpen, and that's what you're supposed to do. The bullpen is supposed to come in and put out the fires. It was first and second, not a tremendously dangerous situation. And Cruz, while it wasn't pleasant, he got out of it. That's how baseball works. I thought it was the right move from Aaron Boone there.
I'll tell you, what a horrible attempt at that bunt as well. Yankees will take it, and it's really hard to bunt. And if you see that in slow motion, you actually see how the fat part of how the barrel is tilted down, which means the ball's going to go up. Now, and listen,
3 costly plays from the Red Sox last
night.
The
Yankees had a couple as well, which I have a few things jotted down. But you're right. The Red Sox let them off the hook a little bit. That is a very hard pitch to bunt. But again, this could be a very different story. It's not, okay? It's not tied up at 1. I think that the Yankees are in a great spot tonight, but these Red Sox are pesky, man, and they do a lot of little things that are, it could be like death by 1,000 cuts here. If the Yankees aren't buttoned up tonight, they're going to lose. Like, they have to play well tonight.
I feel good from a Yankee perspective here tonight, but here's what has to happen, and it hasn't happened enough, in my opinion, in the first 2 games. You could say, well, the first game, tip your cap, Garrett Crochet is a different animal. They have to hit. Like, Judge can't be. Even if Schlittler's not on his game, what's he going to give up? To me, Boston, Bregman's story, I guess. I don't think Boston has enough offensively to compete with the Yankees if the Yankees are clicking on all cylinders offensively.
I tend to agree. I got to point out one thing here. Yeah. And listen, I jumped in a lot on social media last night, which I usually don't do.
Oh, the Jazz thing?
Yeah. That bothered me. Like
I was surprised at that.
Okay, so let me just tell everybody and we'll get the calls, we promise. So on the base hit, I mean, when you score from first base, you're obviously cooking on a base hit down the right field line, and it was a base hit. Now, I thought that Austin Wells should have gone to second base, whatever. I understand the cut position. You don't want to get tagged out before the run scores. Trust me, I understand that.
He should have been at second.
He should have been. No, I agree. But at least I can at least understand, like, him making sure the ball goes through, because if he gets tagged out before the run scores, the run doesn't score. So I understand the trepidation there to an extent. Watch the replay again. It is a 3. Now, I also know that he had a 9.1 time, Jazz, which was the 4th best ever, I think, in StatCast recorded, I guess, going first to home, whatever. The numbers were very kind to him in terms of speed. If you watch it, it is a 3-2 pitch. You know, it's not 0-2. You know you're going. Watch the first 5-6 steps when he starts to go to second base. He's jogging. He beat that by 1/10 of a second. If you want to be a champion, and I say this because this is the bigger issue, if you eventually want to beat the Red Sox and beat Toronto and get to a World Series and win it, you've got to be better at the little teeny tiny things. Ben Rice, you got to keep the ball in front of you. Jazz, you got to get a better jump. These things matter. I don't want to say the Yankees got lucky last night because they did a lot of things well.
Well, I mean, they got lucky because Boston coughed up the game in certain areas.
But they also created their own luck. Jazz keeping the ball in the infield, etc. Wells with a really big-time hit off a tough pitcher. I'm not trying to discredit the Yankees, but if you want to be a champion, you got to be more buttoned up. You know,
I saw your tweet because I didn't notice it in real time. I saw your tweet, and I was like, all right, let me go back and look at this. And then I was looking to see what you saw, and I did not see
It's funny. There was no – I got a lot of comments on that. There was no middle ground. It was either you're absolutely right, he didn't take off, or shut up, they won, what are you looking at?
Now, the replay, forget about the result. That doesn't matter. It matters.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, to me, I was looking at it. Now, I saw the one that John Boy tweeted out, and I don't know if it was his account or Talking Yanks account.
Was that the overhead shot? You couldn't tell from there.
It looked to me like he was getting a running lead before the ball left the pitcher's hand.
I'm going to try to better. I saw that one, too, from John Boy. That's really tough to decipher because it's a broad scope.
And it looked like it was consistent speed all the way around.
It wasn't. First 5-6 steps, I'm going to stand by that. He did not bust ass, I promise you.
BT and Sal on the fan. Let's get some calls in here, BT. 888-808-1019. Great energy ahead of Game 3 tonight at the stadium. Neil starts us off in the Bronx. What's up, Neil?
What's up? Good morning, BT. Good morning, Sal. I just got one thing to say. When it comes to the numbers and the matchup and whatever geometry and chemistry the Yankees are using in the front office, throw that crap out the window. Look what Ben and look what Jazz did. If Jazz doesn't hit and if he gets a walk, you got a human gazelle running the bases. And Ben, he finished the season in the last game, hitting 2 home runs, and what hit does he does in his post-postseason game? Jumps on the first pitch and hits a 2-run bomb. Throw those numbers out the window, man. If you're going to go down with your best players.
He's playing. I promise you.
He's the one, and thanks for the call, Neil. I know Jazz should have been in the lineup as well because he proved last night he didn't have a hit, and everybody's talking about Jazz Chisholm because of his defense, his speed. So Jazz can help you in multiple ways, even if he's 0-for against Crochet. We went over that. Ben Rice is their second best offensive player. He's got to be in the lineup. So, and we don't know if that's going to be the case. It has not been confirmed yet. I would bet that it is just because I have to assume Aaron Boone is smart enough to realize what we all see as far as Ben Rice goes. You could use the argument with Crochet. We could differ there. He chose to sit him. I would not have, but whatever. Understandable. I don't care who is on the mound tonight. You can't sit Ben Rice. His bat has to be in that line.
And it will be. And, the other thing, he's up about the home run, the first pitch you saw, and what he did to end the season, the home run the other way that we talked about, to left center.
He's a beast, dude.
He's phenomenal. But also, how about the out to right field? That ball was 109 miles an hour.
Yeah, well,
the out was the hardest ball that he hit.
I also saw this on social media, too. The Yanks, I guess, had pitches again, and they've been doing a great job.
I saw that. With the slider, with Judge putting his arm up.
Yeah, they're just basically reading. I think it happens more often than not. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But, I mean, maybe that does add up to he knows what's coming so we can tattoo it. I just think Ben Rice is a great hitter.
He is. Yeah. He is. All right, question for you. So I think the only decision, and this is my call, the 10-17 in the morning. Rice at first, Wells behind the plate, Stanton DH, obviously Jazz at second. Now it's a righty. It's not a lefty, and that matters for defense at third base. You going Rosario at third base?
No, I'm going.
You going Caballero? What are we doing at third? McMahon?
I'm keeping Caballero on the bench. And it doesn't matter to me if he wants to play Rosario at third or McMahon. I would probably value the defense and go McMahon, but he's an automatic out. So, but I'm you don't need great offense everywhere. Could you benefit from Rosario's bat versus McMahon? Maybe, but then you could get hurt defensively. And I'm counting on the bigger guys in the lineup, whether it be Grisham, Judge, Stanton, Rice, Jazz, Bellinger. Like, the Yankees have enough horses in Wells. They have enough horses in there to where you should be able to overcome Ryan McMahon going 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. You knew what you were getting when you traded for McMahon. This is not a surprise here. He's a great defensive player. I want to value defense at some. You can't lose a little defense there and lose a little defense at first. Now you're starting to compromise multiple positions. So I would go McMahon, who is their starting third baseman at third base, and I would have Rice play first.
I like it. I'm not so sure that
they probably
Boone's
won't do that.
Going to do that. The reason why I like it is because, you just think about options, and you have to obviously plot this out. And you get to the higher leverage spots. You're never going to pinch. I don't think, well, even if you have a righty out there, let's say McMahon doesn't start, there's no situation where Ryan McMahon will be called upon to pinch hit. That's not going to happen no matter what.
Right.
You could have a situation with a few lefties, and not just Chapman, a few other lefties down there with the Goldschmidt-Rosario tandem that you want to be ready to fire in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning if you have to.
Correct, which makes them stronger on the bench and later in the game in accordance with the matchups. That I would keep the righties. Dude, that's the thing. You kind of, you get it all out there in the beginning because you're like, the starting lefty, we're going to go to all righties. And now what? Now when it turns over and they go to more lefties, then what do you do later in the game?
It's fair.
BT and Sal on the fan. AJ's calling from Eastchester. What's up, AJ?
What's going on, gentlemen? How you guys doing today?
What up?
Good.
What's going on? So I think, with the lefty on the mound, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. But I think, while Rice is going and while Wells are going, like, you have to keep them in the lineup, obviously. And obviously Chisholm at second. These guys are young. They're rolling right now. You got to just think that, the question lies in Stanton and Goldschmidt. Which one's going to sit at this point? And as far as third base goes, listen, it's an obvious drop-off if Caballero starts at third. But I think in high-leverage situations like this, a guy like Caballero out there makes a lot of sense. He gives you something on the base pads. He gives you competitive at bats. Even though he batted 225, 230 on the season, whatever it was. I just think a competitive at bat, him on the base pads. It gets a little messy for pitchers, especially a lefty who's got to look at him at first base like that.
It's fair.
It adds a little bit extra.
It's fair, and here's the argument for that. And thanks for the call, AJ. It can't. I would not have Rosario and Caballero in the lineup like they did the other night.
Oh, that's not going to happen. I'm with you.
Keep one on the bench. I like the idea of Caballero on the bench because of the pinch running, but you also have Dominguez to use for pinch running. You could also then move Caballero if you wanted to put him in right field in the 9th inning with a lead defensively. Like, I'm not saying take Judge out.
I know what you're saying.
You get the point. Like, and then you could bring McMahon in.
Yeah.
The one appealing thought to that, let's say they keep Rosario on the bench and start Caballero, have him bat 9th and play 3rd against a lefty. I like that when the lineup, if Caballero could get on, now you've got pressure on them, meaning Grisham and Judge. That's if the Judge is in the 2-hole. If Judge is in the 2-hole again. And remember, too, last night he didn't want to have the lefties together with
Wells and Volpe down the bottom.
Well, he didn't want to have the lefties together with Grisham and Rice. I would have Rice in the 2-hole, but instead he did it with Bellinger and Rice, and you saw that Cora kept going to lefties.
Yep.
Now, the argument is going to be, Bellinger's different because he's good against lefties. Doesn't matter to me. It's okay if you stack the lefties. I'd rather have Grisham. I want traffic on in front of Judge. That's my goal. So the point about Caballero instead of McMahon gives you a better opportunity potentially to have more traffic on in front of Judge if Judge is in the 2-hole. If not, you have Judge bat 3rd, Rice batting 2nd, and then it doesn't matter really who's hitting 9th.
So it's an interesting conversation. I'm less interested where guys actually hit in the order as opposed to who's actually getting 3 or 4 cracks to swing the bat.
Right.
I'm going to throw you a little curveball here. I mean, how about you sit Stanton and how about you DH Goldschmidt? And if you're going to do that, you may as well have Goldschmidt play first base and have Ben Rice DH there because you think about now Schlittler is filthy, their kid is filthy. It could be a low-scoring game. It could also be 7-5. Who the heck knows how these young kids respond to the stage here? But I'm of the mindset
you won't stand out of that lineup.
Well, let me just give you I don't want him out. I don't, but I do like the premise of having somebody who's a much more reliable bat to ball, in terms of skill, like Goldschmidt. Early, you never know because it's baseball. Anything can happen. But if it's 1st and 2nd, nobody out, and Goldschmidt's up early, or first 2 or 3 innings, whatever, against the lefty, I feel pretty good about him, dumping one to right field, having a 7-pitch at bat versus Stanton, who just looks. When Stanton's hitting the ball on the ground, Sal, he's nowhere near being in a good spot as a hitter.
You don't have to tell me. I'm not a big fan of John Carlos Stanton. I know when he goes on these heaters, everybody loves him, and he's been October G and all that stuff. There's no way. Look, if my theory is I'm going down with my best players, I don't care how bad of a funk he's in. He's one swing away from changing everything. I'd have a hard time going down with John Carlos Stanton on the bench. Much more of your calls when we come back. 888-808-1019. BT and Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.